3 thinking styles that get in the way of a happy life. Have you ever heard the expression, when you change your thoughts, you change your world? Cognitive behavioral therapy is a kind of therapy that teaches us to see how our thoughts, our feelings, and our behaviors are all connected. So, if we want to feel happier, one thing that we can learn from CBT is how our thinking styles might be leading us to have a lot of unwanted negative emotions. Once we get a handle on what those thoughts are, we can begin to change them. The first part of this process is to start catching those thoughts that pop up in our minds that are impacting how we feel. This isn't as easy as it sounds, because sometimes we've been thinking this way for so long that we are barely aware of these thoughts anymore. However, the more that we do this, the easier it becomes. Using a journal to write down your thoughts as they arrive can help. The next thing to do is to look at the thoughts as objectively as possible and try to identify the thought errors that we may be using. It's kind of like looking in a funhouse mirror and seeing how our image is distorted. In the same way that the funhouse mirror distorts our reflection, our thoughts can become distorted so that they are no longer an accurate reflection of reality. Today I'm going to tell you about 3 thinking styles that can sometimes lead to a lot of negative feelings. These are all or nothing thinking, overgeneralization, jumping to conclusions. When you use all or nothing thinking, you will see things in black or white categories. If a situation isn't perfect, you may see it as a total failure. But this isn't realistic. Most things are not either all good or all bad. Instead, they fall into the middle ground. When you catch yourself using all or nothing thinking, try to remember that there are more than 2 categories that you can put events and situations into. Let's look at an example. Mary is a student in pre-med at UBC, and so far she has always gotten A's. She is struggling with her chemistry class and gets a C+ on her first exam. She thinks to herself, if I don't get all A's, I might as well forget becoming a doctor. Mary is using all or nothing thinking here, and her thoughts lead her to feel depressed and anxious about her future. By learning to recognize that this way of thinking is harmful to her confidence and mood, Mary can challenge the thought and reframe the situation in a more balanced, less extreme way. She challenges her all or nothing thought and replaces it with, although I am disappointed by the C+, I can get extra help with chemistry to bring up my average and continue in my pre-med studies. Once Mary has found a more realistic, less distorted way of thinking about the situation, she finds that her anxiety has decreased and she feels more optimism about her studies. Our next problematic thinking style is called overgeneralization. This thought style is used when you see a single negative event as a never-ending pattern of defeat. Words such as always, never, everyone, and nobody pop up in these thoughts. When you find yourself using overgeneralization, you can put on your detective hat and examine the evidence. Does the evidence really support your thought? Can you think of some exceptions? Is your negative evaluation of the situation accurate? Most likely not. Let's look at an example. Bill is a recently divorced man who would like to start dating again. He joins a local singles meetup group and goes to a concert. While there, he starts chatting with a woman named Lisa that he feels very comfortable with. She laughs at all of his jokes and tells him that she is really enjoying her night out. He decides to ask her out for coffee, but she says, "Sorry, I have a boyfriend." At this point, Bill thinks to himself, I should never have asked Lisa out. I'm totally alone while everybody else has somebody who loves them. Relationships never work out for me, so I should just give up. Bill's use of overgeneralization makes him feel sad and hopeless, and he sees the one no thanks as a never-ending pattern of disappointment. However, if Bill could recognize this thought style and examine the evidence, he could challenge the accuracy of these thoughts and then come up with a more balanced way of thinking about the situation. He could reframe his thoughts about the situation like this. It's not realistic for me to expect that every woman that I talk to will want to go on a date with me. I have asked women out in the past, and most of the time they've said yes. I have a lot to offer. There are a ton of other single people in the world, and there's no rush for me to be in a relationship. Bill realizes that although he enjoyed meeting Lisa, that there will be a lot more opportunities to connect with people in the future, and the evidence really doesn't support his thought that his life is a series of disappointments. As a result, his distressing feelings of hopelessness decrease. Jumping to conclusions. The last type of thinking error that we are going to talk about today is all about what we expect will happen. These types of errors often predict failure and make us expect the worst. This can happen in two main ways. Mind reading. With this thinking error, the person thinks they know what someone else is thinking. Fortune telling. The person thinks that they know what will happen. If we look back at our last example with Bill, we can see how jumping to conclusions in the situation that he found himself in could lead him to feel hurt and rejected. When Bill asked Lisa on a date and she said no because she had a boyfriend, Bill may have been thinking something along the lines of, "Lisa just made up that story about having a boyfriend because she doesn't find me attractive. She's probably going to go and laugh about me with her friends." Is there any evidence at all to support Bill's thoughts? He had been having a pleasant conversation with Lisa, but now he is jumping to conclusions and allowing himself to imagine the worst. He can't know, none of us can, what someone else is thinking or what the future holds. So a more realistic way for Bill to think about the situation would be, even if Lisa doesn't have a boyfriend, there are a million reasons why she might not want to go on a date. There could be reasons that have nothing to do with me. It seems unlikely that she will laugh about me with her friends, because my impression is that she is a caring person and we had a nice conversation. Conclusion. You can see from these examples that when Mary and Bill recognized their thought errors, understood their harmful impact, and then challenged the thoughts, the door opened for them to find more balanced ways of looking at the situations. They could then reframe their thoughts and move forward with more optimism. All or nothing thinking, overgeneralization, and jumping to conclusions are three of the thinking styles identified by cognitive behavioral therapy that can lead to feelings of unhappiness and distress. But there are many more thinking styles that you can learn about. CBT is all about learning strategies and building skills that you can use to feel happier, calmer, and more emotionally resilient. Thanks for listening.